Leadership is found in every room where people connect over a shared purpose. In this weekly podcast, Luke, Hannah, and Chris explore the role of purpose, courage, mindset, and culture in every leader's quest for transformational performance.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Magic in the Room. I'm Chris Province.
And I'm Luke Freeman. And today we are talking about meaningful recognition. And like, what is that? Why is that important? And so we thought, why would we talk about this without having a real recognition expert? So we have Miss Ashley Hurney with us. Hey, Ashley, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you all?
Doing great. Enjoying the snow here in Oklahoma. I was thinking it's not often that we do an episode where everyone is in the same state that we're actually talking to. So this is kind of fun. Really have a shared experience here together. Hey, well, a little bit about Ashley. So Ashley is Director of Marketing with MTM Recognition. And I'll let Ashley share a little bit about MTM, who they are, where they came from, what they do in a minute. But I'm really excited for you, Ashley, because word on the street is tomorrow is 10 years with MTM, and that's like a really big deal at MTM. Am I hearing that right?
Yes, it is. It's almost a rite of passage, if you will. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, so we've had the privilege of working with Ashley for a couple years now, doing some projects with MTM and learning a little bit together about the science of recognition and meaningful recognition. And it's been just really fun to partner together with Ashley. So, okay, little bit of our opening question. Let's do that, and then we'll get to some of the other things. So our question today, Ashley and Chris, when is a time that you were recognized and it made like a meaningful difference in your life? It's a time that you remember clearly. It's a time that changed how you thought about something or changed how you felt about something or someone. What comes to mind for you?
Yeah, it's interesting, Luke. Before, I didn't even know this was going to be our question of the day, but in thinking about this episode and talking with Ashley, I thought, what were those pivotal moments of recognition? And, why were they important? And I think back, I guess those keystone moments for me, first grade, Mrs. Rader, Westside Elementary. When I was in kindergarten, I remember we counted, we had a little chart that started at 0 and went to 100, and we all got rocket ships. And if you could count to 100 in kindergarten, you got to put your rocket ship on the moon, right? Well, I messed up at 28. Okay, so I could only count to 28 when I was in kindergarten, and my rocket was way down on the chart, and everybody else's was on the moon. So fast forward, I feel like a total failure. But I go through, I'm learning how to read, doing all the kindergarten things, and I get the first grade. And by the time at the end of year assembly in first grade, my teacher, Mrs. Rader, gave certified me with a piece of paper that said I was the most improved student. So from being the kid that had the lowest rocket ship in kindergarten to being the most improved student, it at least confirmed to me that I had the ability to learn and I might be able to be good at it. And that was a formative moment. It said, you can do this. And it then gave me that confidence and that belief. And I think about getting into the workforce and being a marketer. And, I was a younger marketer at the time, but I received an award. It's a national award. It's a John Romero. And I received this, I don't know, when I was 2 years into the gaming industry. And it confirmed to me, hey, you might be good at this, right? Keep going. What you're doing matters. And so those were a couple keystone moments. And then, as a coach, bringing together Landon's baseball teams and organizing all of that and developing skills within those kids. When you win tournaments, bang, Like state tournaments matter, right? You play for the end of the season, you peak at the right time. And like these rings matter, right? What do they mean to those kids? It's like when you're practicing, 6 or 8 months out of the year, while everybody else is at the pool and you're out there busting your butt at baseball practice, like it says what you're doing matters. And, for me, it was like, can I lead a team of other people and of kids in a developmental formative period in their lives to achieve success? Can I inspire the right behavior and the right mindset? And plus, it just looks cool to do this for any of you watching online. So anyway, these are all the types of things that MTM does and how the focus on recognition impacts a person's life and just informs direction. And it makes me feel like what I'm doing matters.
Yeah, that's really cool. What you're doing matters. Communicating that, believing that, and your story about kindergarten as well. I mean, like how more predisposed to you or whatever to the idea of growth mindset versus fixed mindset after receiving that recognition and learning that lesson. I see that fruit in you today as someone who like constantly has this optimistic growth mindset outlook on life. We can overcome this. We can do this. We can figure out a new way to do things. We can continue to learn as middle-aged folks, right? So I see that fruit, and I think it speaks to the power of something that to the teacher probably seemed just like a simple, hey, I heard about this at a conference or learned it at a continuing ed, seminar at school or whatever. And yeah, I'll do this. I'll try this out. Ashley, how about you? What comes to mind when you think about, meaningful recognition experiences in your life?
I have several. Playing sports growing up, of course, there was tons of baked in moments. Winning the state championship in high school, of course, being the one that sticks out the most. Playing for a championship legacy team, winning is still really cool every single time. And so that was a really fun experience and really helped shape me. But one of the most, I think, influential recognition moments in my professional career happened very early on at MTM. I think I had worked there for maybe a year, maybe 2 years. And it wasn't actually an award. So one of our staff in accounting emailed me and said, hey, I just wanted you to know that I nominated you for Employee of the Year. I really enjoy working with you. You have a great attitude. You're really helpful and just really those words of affirmation, right? That's my jam. But she took the time to tell me, hey, I enjoy working with you and I nominated you for this very prestigious award, even though you are very new to the company and things like that. But I see your work, you're valued, and you're going to do really good things here. That, like, I still have that email. I think I even printed it out. But what a great moment, because as a very young professional person, trying to come up through the ranks and really prove myself, it really solidified to me, someone is noticing my work. It wasn't my boss. It wasn't a senior leadership member. It was actually a peer who recognized me and took the time to let me know, hey, I see what you're doing and I like it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we mentioned earlier you have another award coming up with 10 years tomorrow. So tell us a little bit about your anticipation, what have you seen with other people hitting 10 years? What do you think that experience is going to be like?
Oh, it's one of my very favorite days ever. I love any milestones for any of our people because it's just so much fun. But 10 years, like I said, it truly is almost a rite of passage because at our company, we do have really high tenure. And so once you've hit 10 years, you've really made it. You're in finally. So it feels really good. But I have been looking forward to my 10-year anniversary since my 5th-year anniversary. I just love a good celebration. So that's something. But it's just so much fun. It's a whole day of celebration and a party. There's a beautiful ceremony where your supervisor will say some really kind words about you. And as many people that we can gather in our room, they'll gather together and listen to those kind words and those accomplishments and future things. And then everyone lines up to either shake your hand or give you a hug. Of course, this was pre-COVID, but it's such a wonderful time of community and reinforcing and just overall celebration. And it's a great day.
Yeah, and I love that everyone lines up. They give you high fives and handshakes and hugs and all those awesome pre-COVID things. But I guarantee you, like, it will be a day of celebration as soon as everyone gets back in and we can do all the things, right? And, I wanted to provide a little bit of color on MTM recognition. They're a company that I've done business with I was a customer long before we were partners. And, I was working in the gaming space and thinking, man, I want our players to experience something different. Like, I want what we do to be differentiated and to be held in regard. And I went out and I wanted to know, like, who built the NASCAR trophies, who was doing all the stuff for the bowl games and all this, the stuff that sometimes we're not supposed to talk about. Well, I did all the digging and I find out, like, holy smokes, this company's like in my backyard. It's right here in Oklahoma and they do all the things. So I knew, like, they were the go-to for, recognition quality awards for the players I was wanting to hold us in different regard. Craziest story. So I find them as a customer first, and then I realize that, like, one of the president there is a family member, like, married to my cousin. So had no idea, never put, like, I knew they did some trophy stuff. Like, that was kind of how it was explained to me, like, and then to find out, no, like, this isn't a trophy shop, guys. This is something totally different. So it was totally misframed to be by my family. So just a crazy story of, finding family as a customer and just how our relationship has grown. But you guys do amazing things, and every possible component, every possible substrate, you've grown through corporate acquisition, and you guys have a foundry operation and just an entire campus there at Midwest City. It's an amazing place. And Ashley, just give us a little bit of feel for that scale.
Oh gosh. I often forget, but sometimes, well, all the time, it's such a privilege to be able to walk by the world's most prestigious awards every single day. Like, think about your favorite award for whatever genre. For me, it's going to be sports. I'm a sports person. Every single day, I get to walk by the most prestigious awards given in sports. And that is, it's such an honor because I'm reminded of the work that goes into it, not only making it, but also the work that it takes to receive it. And how, again, I'm reminded that what I do matters, because I may not be building that award myself, but I'm laying the groundwork, or I'm doing my job so others can do their job to build that award and make sure that that recognition moment, that one moment in time, is as memorable and special and unique as it can be.
And we come to this episode, we just talked about sensory informed design not too long ago with John Stewart, and just how all of these things really come into play, and to make that moment, right? We remember just right at 1 minute of every day, and the work that you guys do, it's guaranteed to be that minute. But there's a lot of groundwork that goes into it, not just like, in corporate world, it's how do you build the program? How do you execute the program? What are the right products or awards to have in the program? All the design process to make those bespoke or custom, or, and to get the world's largest brands, to do this in an impactful and meaningful way. And, I think what shows up most is this really profound belief at MTM that it's meaningful recognition that lifts the human spirit. it seems like everything kind of grows out of that belief. And I don't know, how does that show up internally? Maybe like how do you guys go about lifting each other's human spirits, and what are some things that you really encourage, customers to do?
I love this question. So something that I believe we're really good at, both internally and for our customers, is customizing the recognition to the moment and customizing it to the person. And really, I think that's where MTM excels, again, internally and both with our customers as well. Yes, we do have service award programs. We have onboarding, we have retirement, we have, everything in between. And we recognize for everything humanly possible. And I love that. I received a service award at my 1 year and my 3 year anniversaries. And for millennials and for, Gen Z and some others, that's a really big deal. Because some people, I think the stat is people like to job hop every 2.5 years. But that's really important to capture that recognition early. But getting back to the custom recognition and the very personal recognition, we will go above and beyond because we can make really cool things. We do. And so for service anniversaries or for, weddings or different things like that, it's not uncommon for our staff to make a custom nameplate. I have one. I'm a big fan of the Thunder. I have one that is, my name is in like the Thunder emblem sort of. And it's custom to me into what I like. And what a great gift to receive for that milestone. And so, yes, we do that for our own people, but we do that every single day for our customers. And it's really cool to see what our creative staff, what our engineers, what our designers can come up with, because again, they're coming up with that really unique moment that our staff will then build and then deliver for that special recognition moment. So for me, it goes back to the custom and the personal recognition.
And I think I love what you touch on there about like that moment being like whatever the values of that enterprise brand, how does that emerge or show up in that delivery? And it takes a lot of folks to make that possible. MTM is, I know we've got, 2 international production facilities, 2 domestic production facilities. We have, around 500 folks, and with titles like award engineer. And I'm thinking, man, if I ever come back as in a second life, like I would love to do that job. It's just amazing. So it really does take a lot of capacities and ability to make all these things happen for, all the brands that we would know and love. So basically, if you see a brand, driving around or on a grocery store shelf or in a retail location, more than likely MTM has had some role in their recognition program. So great organization, great color around that. And, I want to talk to how that profound belief shows up, right? So this company believes that meaningful recognition lifts the human spirit, but then can you share with us, like, what is the purpose of the organization? Like, why do you guys get out of bed every day and do what you do?
Our purpose, we believe that meaningful recognition lifts the human spirit. And I really think like the best illustration I can provide is like what comes to mind is sort of a production line, if you will. You have components, you're making the award, and every single person has to do their job correctly to ensure that award is recognition quality. It's made of excellence because we know that award is going to represent someone's really special moment in their life. And I always like to watch, whether it's like a nameplate or engraving on the awards, that's someone's name, that's someone's mom, or that's someone's, brother. And so seeing the names and seeing that sort of customization on it really makes it personal for every single person. And I really feel like our managers do a good job of hammering that home as well, is you're playing an important role in someone else's big moment. And so that really calls our employees to action of excellence, if you will. So And if you think about it in a personal manner, I wouldn't want to receive an award that, has a mistake on it or my name was misspelled. You wouldn't want to receive that either. And so we take that very personally. And each employee knows their role in the bigger picture. And again, I believe our managers do a really good job of saying, hey, here's how your role or this job or this, this step in the process, here's how this contributes to the bigger picture overall, because meaningful recognition lifts the human spirit. And we really like to take that a step further in, every interactions can lift the human spirit as well. So that trickles down to our email communication, our interactions with our own employees. And so we really encourage, lifting the human spirit in all aspects of work, not just, physically putting those awards together or whatever that task may be, because you can lift someone's spirit at any time.
Yeah. And when I walk through production, I see the folks in those departments, like they're doing stretches, they're taking care of themselves, like they're, so we have all this kind of recognition taking place, maybe peer to peer and supervisor, but there's also some structural things that are happening like within the environment that kind of extend and show care to the people stewarding the rewards in that production process. And you guys measure a ton of things, like the production measurement is a big thing, and then the Baldrige process. You guys have a whole learning program for high performance leaders and senior managers that involves Baldrige. And I know you've went through that certification. Can you kind of give us a little insight as to what that process is and how it shows up in the operation?
Yeah, so the Baldrige Criteria is a criteria of excellence, and it's really a framework for businesses or nonprofits to operate from. It helps drive alignment. It does a ton of really good things, but for us, it's helped with alignment and, again, just an overall framework to work from. I have been an examiner twice now, and it's really a privilege to be able to do that, to be invited into someone else's company and to really, peek under the table or behind the curtain, if you will, and see everything that's really going on, and to be able to help that organization from a healthy critique and healthy criticism standpoint. And for us, we enjoyed that as well. The process, it's pretty extensive. The first time I went through it, I likened it to my senior thesis in college, which was a long time ago, but we won't talk about that. But it's a long process. So you fill out an application, and I believe it's around 50 pages. There is, I believe, 9 different sections that you have to adhere to, or have to provide evidence that you're doing these different things. And there's different levels of those items, right? So if section 3 is customer service, there are different levels of excellence. And so everyone has to start somewhere, right? So you can start with a level of commitment, and then you can grow from there. And for us, it's been about a 2-year cycle of applying. So it's not, if you're looking for fast improvements, this is not a get rich quick thing. And I've had the privilege of watching us start Baldrige and seeing it through. I believe we started our Baldrige journey, 9 or 10 years ago. And I remember thinking when I was first introduced to it, wow, this is a game changer. This directs the ship, if you will. So again, there's different levels of excellence, within that, and watching us grow from commitment level and climbing those levels of excellence has been really cool to watch, but to also have an active role in that. Again, as an examiner, I have an inside view to that, but also as an employee. Every single employee is invited to be a part of the Baldrige journey, and we have instructors who take us through that and explain things really well. But who doesn't want to do their job better? Who doesn't want to help improve their company? And that's the beauty of Baldrige. Yeah.
And I really see Baldrige as they provide kind of a framework or a structure so that then behaviors can align. So basically, if we do X, then we get Y. So really high expectancy for, like, if we follow the structure, then the behaviors will produce positive outcomes. And then it's really powerful because executing on that now creates a lot of opportunities for recognition. So it's kind of bringing things full circle. And just the same way Baldrige is that clarifying framework for your organization that creates the measurement and the kind of processes to hit those thresholds, recognition as a whole is that clarifying mechanism to us, as individuals, that says the processes you're using to achieve this thing are producing positive outcomes. So just that the clarity in all of our structures creates our behavior. And I think that's what I want to communicate here is when we think about recognition programs, a pat on the head and a $50 gift card, like, it's a lot of times it's misaligned. I'm not going to say it's not enough. It's misaligned. Like, how does it fit into the brand? How does it, communicate your values to the person being recognized? How does it create commitment to execute that same behavior again? Like, there's all these levels of intention that when we think about a recognition program, that we have to bring into that equation. That's where we get more towards the science of meaningful recognition. And, Luke, I always like to hear your takes on these things. So, like, what is some of the science of meaningful recognition?
Yeah, great question. And I think the simplest way to explain why meaningful recognition actually moves the needle is one to what's the scale that we're trying to move the needle on? And I think it's typically engagement. And why engagement is important in the workplace is discretionary effort, right? So if we're very transactional with folks and we're just exchanging dollars for time or dollars for the amount of widgets that they produce or whatever, that's a fixed transaction. It's a formula. And if you don't add engagement in there, you're only going to get, X for Y. What engagement does is bring in that whole idea of that discretionary effort and say, well, if I pay you X, but then the conditions of work are such that our values are aligned and we're in a mission together and fulfilling a shared purpose together, then all of a sudden it's not X equals Y, it's X equals Y plus discretionary effort, whatever that is. And so when we think about recognition, it's simply a way to clarify that we have shared values. And the more we can clarify it, and the more we can clarify what those values are, and the closer that those values are to what people really hold at the core of what they believe about themselves and what they believe is important, the more symbiosis, the more alignment, the more good stuff, right, comes out of the relationship. And it becomes much more transformational of a relationship than transactional. It's we're doing something together versus, well, I'm paying you to do this thing. And so why is recognition part of what creates that? It meets basic human needs, neurological needs, right? We need to know our status in a community. And that doesn't mean that everyone needs to be at the top of the heap as far as status goes, but it's hard for us to feel secure if we don't know, hey, I'm a top performer here, or I'm middle of the pack, or hey, I'm kind of on the low end here, but I see the behavior recognized. I have clarity on what it would take for me to get to the middle of the pack or to become one of those champions inside the organization, right? Not that I'm going to do that, but me just having clarity on what it would mean or what it would look like, well, all of a sudden I'm aware of where I stand, and I have some autonomy then on what level of effort I want to put forward. It's not just me striking blindly into the dark and saying, well, the only way I know what performance looks like here is I see who gets the manager role, right? Who gets promoted. In a lot of organizations, that's the only piece of information people have about what behavior is positive and aligned with the values of the organization and what behaviors aren't. And I mean, we all know from our experiences, that's probably not the most telling way to know how I get ahead. If it's, well, I'm buddies with the owner, and so I get ahead, I can't control that. right? I could try, right? But it's not something that, well, I know I work hard every day and I put a little effort towards something that I'm going to be able to be a top performer. So recognition like really is a clarifying tool. And at the same time, like, we want to be recognized. We want people to see us. We want to be known. We want to have a relationship. So recognition also is a tool that builds relationship. It signals what you think is important is what I think is important. You know, I saw you do that thing. I saw you be committed, right? And I'm going to recognize that. And now we all know, and everyone watching us knows that we're in relationship together and we both agree to this relationship. You know, I love Ashley's story about 10 years at MTM being kind of a rite of passage. And their tenure at MTM, it's so long that you're not a newbie anymore when you make it to the 10-year mark, right? And so tomorrow, when she receives that award, it's her and leadership at MTM coming together and saying, look, we believe the same thing. We believe that commitment over time is something that we value here. We believe that all the work that Ashley's put in means something, and that we're not a people come and do their 2 or 3 years and leave type of place. And Ashley, by accepting that, says, yeah, I put in the time. I agree. This is something I value, is my commitment to this organization. Now, other organizations have different values and recognize different things, and that's okay. The point is, like, we're showing and demonstrating to everyone what we value here. So that's just a little bit of kind of the science behind, you know, why it's important. I'm kind of curious, you know, what have you guys seen? What makes recognition, you know, meaningful instead of check the box? That's a term that we use sometimes, that some organizations fall into check the box recognition. Maybe they've heard a little bit about the science. Maybe they've seen competitors recognize things, and so they feel pressure to do it, but they end up in these check the box recognition programs versus meaningful. I mean, Ashley, what have you seen that are some of those difference makers between real meaningful recognition and check the box recognition?
This is something I believe in with my whole being. Recognition has to be personal. It has to be meaningful. And one of my favorite ways to do that, I'm a big fan of the book called The 5 Languages of Appreciation at Work. It's akin to the 5 love languages, but for the workplace. And I believe that absolutely has a place in the workplace, because yes, you can have the service award programs, you can have, all of those in place. But not everyone it's not one size fits all. And as a company, we don't approach recognition that way internally or externally. And I believe that's what helps sets us apart, both in culture with our employees and with our customers as well. So I'm a big fan of the languages of appreciation, and every single one of my staff, I make them take the test, so I know how to best recognize them. And then honestly, having that conversation too, especially with like a milestone award. So for us, we typically gather in a big room. It's a big presentation. But not everyone wants to be talked about in a room full of people. That's not the best way to recognize everyone. And so ahead of time, we'll have that conversation, and every single manager does this. Hey, do you want this presentation? Yes or no? Or how best can we recognize you? In addition to that service award, in addition to those pillar programs that we have in place, you have to surround it and support it with that custom recognition, that meaningful recognition. And so that, I believe, that's how you really keep folks around for a long time and really create some fantastic things within your organization, because you're not just checking the box. I mean, I can sit here and tell you 10 different stories or more about friends receiving, their recognition or their 5-year award. Yeah, I got a plaque today. It just, someone set it on my desk. Well, that's no fun at all. I mean, it's better than nothing, you could say. But if that's the measure we're using, we're doing something wrong here. So I keep those stories tucked away in the back of my mind and remember those things. Hey, we're not going to be like that. And in turn, our customers aren't going to be like that either. And I love that every single rep that we have, every single person customer facing that we have really coaches their clients to do the recognition, but to present it in a meaningful way as well. So that way it really soaks into that person and it becomes that memory marker of that moment.
And I think about, Ashley, like you've been with MTM, 10 years, And, really, like, every business evolves, and being in a leadership position, the grit, the sacrifice, the discretionary things that you've done, like, and everyone has done, right? As the business continues to adjust to different market environments, like every healthy enterprise does, like, holding that sacrifice and just the grit and the pain and the suffering that you've experienced to make MTM better, like, holding that in regard. And I think that's the main thing. It's the check that you get every 2 weeks, you could get 100 different places, but you make the choice to stare down whatever sacrifice is necessary, move forward the business of MTM, and like having some sort of reverence for that, and telling a story back to you about that. That's meaningful. And creating structures, business leaders creating structures and space for that to happen. I think the real enemy of meaningful recognition is the lack of intention around creating space and conversation to express reverence and regard and provide artifacts that your life has meaning and you belong here. And I would take, if I was to kind of take it a step further and get really uncomfortable about it, like, really great recognition programs are a function of what I would say virtuous organizations and virtuous leaders, because they want their virtue to shine throughout their organization and are less concerned about checking the compliance box. We've got to have the program because everybody else has a program, and millennials won't work with us unless we have a program. So, like, all this bullshit, check the box stuff around, we got to have an ESG, we've got to have a recognition program, we've got to have a purpose. Like, it doesn't make it virtuous. Like, how you create the space and the love and regard you have for other people is what will determine whether these things are meaningful or not. And if it's not virtuous, people see right through it and you haven't changed your outcome. It's just crap. And, like, that's, I know, and I'll say it, I'm allowed to say it, I don't work for MTM. Like, you guys compete with a lot of people that, like, really profit and run extract models on going out and checking the boxes. And what I appreciate about working with you is it's about that moment. It's about the person in that moment and the virtues of the brands that you work with. And that's why I absolutely love working with you, Ashley and Josh and Dave, Ketch, Daryl, every week. Like, it makes my life better and it makes me better. So thank you for that. And that's just my take on things.
Yeah, that's just to add to that. The more I've been at MTM, the more I realize we weren't built to check boxes. We were built to, sort of blow that concept out of the water. And it's so cool to see us do that every day.
Yeah, and I just want to provide an example there, because this idea of being truly virtuous and it taking intention to provide meaningful recognition, just to make that real, something that we talk about a lot is people will call up MTM or they'll call up Purpose and Performance Group and say, okay, so I feel like we need to reward people. We did a little survey, like, people just want cash. And so can we just do, like, gift cards or, like, add an extra $50 to their paycheck on the next payroll run? And they are so fast to not think about what that actually means, right? You can tell what virtues or what values an organization has based on how deeply someone's willing to actually think about if that's the right decision or not. Because if we think about it, it's not that hard to see, well, yeah, of course people, if you give them a survey, say, would you like $100 or a gift that's equal to $100? People are responsible, right? They've got families to feed. They've got gas tanks to fill up. And they say, well, the responsible thing for me to put here, because I'm a good person, is $100, because I can use that to support the people I love, right? But it doesn't take a rocket scientist to say, okay, what are they going to remember 10 years from now? That I added $100 to their biweekly paycheck, or that I got them something that sits on their mantle or sits on their desk, right? Or an experience that they had, right? It could be a trip, it could be something else, right? It could be tickets to a ball game. And I was able to stand up in front of our team or even just send an email and say, "Great job, Chris. You believe in next level contribution to the organization. I know you worked extra hard on this. You did this thing. You're a champion in our organization. Take these tickets or look at this trophy or whatever it is," right? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that that $100 spent that way provides way more ROI than the $100 in the paycheck. And the fact that people buy into, well, the survey says that they want $100, just goes to show you the character and value and willingness to think critically of that organization. And I'm not trying to vilify those folks. I do think they mean well, right? But it does show like who's willing to do the hard work to say, this is what we value. This is our purpose, and our people are a part of it. And we're going to do the work to actually bring them along.
Yeah. And I just want to mention something. I think Chris and I had a conversation a few weeks ago. We were talking about the same concept of cash versus recognition. And really, we study this a lot because we compete against it a lot. We have cash or cash equivalents in our programs because it is a necessity. But Chris mentioned one day about how the actual amount of cash for it to be effective was so astronomically high. And of course, starting a recognition program is a good step in the direction in the first place. So if you're thinking that way, that's a good, first step. But no one is ever going to turn down money. Like, you can have the highest paid executives. If you put everyone in a room together, no one's going to say, "Yeah, you don't pay me enough. Please, don't give me more money." That's never going to be a thing. So just kick that out of the way. But if you can peel back those layers, set cash aside, and really get down another level into, okay, what's going to contribute to our culture? What's going to help support and bolster that purpose? Because it's not going to be cash. It's never going to be cash.
Yeah. What communicates our values? You understand, like, organization and leadership is a lot about conversation, creating moments of accountability that confirm a system of shared belief. And recognition is a very powerful way. And yeah, there are times, and that's why we need to have discussions about programming. There are times where we do, want to hit that intrinsic trigger, but, and there's times we want to hit the extrinsic trigger. But it's about programming it in such a way. What values do you want communicated and when? Upon what performance? Upon what milestones? And that's, what is an award? What is a reward? Like, walking through that conversation, and based on where somebody's at in their life cycle and their contribution to the success of an organization, what is the right confirmation or artifact or gift or whatever it is to say, hey, like, we're on the right track here. You believe what we believe, and we're getting good outcomes.
Yeah. And I know we're moving towards the end of our time here, but I kind of want to leave people with a really practical kind of recognition hack. And so there's a lot of things that you can really practice and learn about to make recognition meaningful. But I think one of the easiest and a light bulb that really came on for me as we started doing some of this work and doing some research is the idea of character-focused messaging instead of task or accomplishment-focused messaging. So Ashley, Chris, could you just kind of clue us in on when we say meaningful recognition is character-focused? What do we mean by that?
The hack to me is the number one thing is getting past the behavior and to the character. So I can say, like, Ashley and Luke, you guys are both on this podcast. I can say, hey guys, thanks for showing up at 11 o'clock this morning. Like, thanks for being here and doing this podcast. Okay, I just issued you this blanket check the box recognition. It's something. It's better than me not appreciating it. But if I said, Luke, I know all your boys are at home today. You've got a house full of 3 boys. I know Marla is, doing some service work for an organization. I know they're on distance learning. I know you've had to manage a lot of things to make this 1 hour possible. And I know you're pushing things off that are immediate and in needs right now to spend this time with Ashley and I to share messages of hope and gratitude and intention to other people. That speaks volumes about what you believe, and you make me better when you do that. That is a character-based recognition. And I think, that's me thanking you for more than showing up. It's me seeing you, understanding your condition, and holding you in regard for your ability to be here anyway. Whereas with Ashley, she might have had this time blocked off for 5 weeks and has no challenge, right? So with Ashley, I would say, Ashley, just thank you for showing up in a way that I know I can always count on to communicate in a very human way and speaking to the power of recognition and how it impacts other people's lives, to know that they're seen, heard, and understood. Like your beliefs around that, that's why MTM is such a wonderful partner for PNPG. And that's character-based. It's not about her showing up. It's about how she shows up and the confidence that I have in her that she shows up like that every week. It doesn't matter if it's just this spot on just this day, but I know if when I talk to her on Tuesday, that's how she's going to show up, and Thursday and Friday, etc. But I'm getting past this idea of, hey, thanks for being here. Thanks for doing the show. And that's, for me, that first level hack of how to get past the action and get to reverence and regard for the person executing the action.
Yeah, that's the ultimate hack and the best first step really in taking your recognition from transactional and elevating it to meaningful. And I love that we had this discussion months ago because it's challenged me as a manager as well. Because yes, we're all busy. We have a lot of things to do. Hey, I need to recognize that person. So I pull out my phone and I send a badge. But it's really like this thought alone has helped me, take that 5-second pause and, okay, yeah, they did that presentation, but what underneath that is worthy of recognition? They answered really tough questions. They never gave up. They fought through some technology issues. And so again, getting to that character personally and overall as a company, it's helped us go from transactional to that meaningful, just that juicy, good recognition.
I love it. I'm going to still juicy good. In order to apply it, much like we're doing here, I think one of the best practices for teams and leaders, just to carve out space. Anytime you guys are together, that team's together, that work group, that project group, just carve out a little space at the end. Like this last 5 minutes is just to issue recognitions, and go ahead and do those things. Carve out the space. Behavior follows structure, right? Always. So if you have the 5 minutes to issue recognitions are going to get issued. So that's kind of the second piece. In order to activate the character-based function, make space to actually do it.
Thank you so much for both of your time. I'd love to hear just some key takeaways. Like, what's the one thing that you're going to leave this conversation with that's valuable to you? Chris, what do you got?
The idea that recognition is the evidence that provides meaning and belonging. It makes me know that I'm seen, heard, and understood. That will be my takeaway.
Yeah, that's great. Ashley, how about you?
Well, I would say I have a lot of takeaways because I learned a lot even today too. But again, just that reminder of take the time, and really it's not that much time, but take the time to do it right. Because the fruits of that labor will be so much better. Your organization will be better, your team will be better, you will be better. So just take that time to do it right.
Yeah, that's great. And I'll share mine, and I'm going to try and keep this brief, but we didn't do my answer to the opening question, but as I reflected on it, I came to this memory of I was about maybe 12, 13 years old. And an older person in my church, we were doing an event together and had kind of a time of recognition at the end. And I'm someone that's always kind of asked questions and maybe made people uncomfortable with the questions or whatever. But this older guy said, "I just really appreciate your candor." And that word candor, I was like, well, I think I know what that means. But I think I went home and looked it up afterwards. It was like openness, honesty, transparency. And that was something that was a part of me that I don't think people had seen, or if they had seen, they hadn't called it out and named it for me before. And the fact that I remember that, right, means something. But I think moving forward, I was able to own that character trait and say, no, that's a part of my identity and who I am. And I'm not going to let that go in the face of times where maybe it was scary to offer candor to a conversation or in a relationship. And so that's my takeaway, is how do I do that for other people, and how do we do that as leaders for other folks? How do we name things inside of them and their behavior and their character that help them clarify their identity, help them clarify their values? And if we can do it in a way that builds relationship and affinity with our organization and that person, that's a win. Even if not, though, right? And it just adds value to their life as a human being, like, that's a win too. I think I can be happy with that. So I just really appreciate the both of you for helping me clarify and crystallize that thought and memory. That's a good learning for me today. So thanks so much to everyone who's listening. Ashley, if folks want to get connected with you, want to learn more about MTM and what MTM can offer for them, their organization, their team, their whatever it is, how do they connect with you and learn more?
Yeah, the best resource is going to be our website. It is mtmrecognition.com. There is a wealth of information there, but we also have a chat available. So if you have specific questions, we will get you some answers and help you whenever you need. If you'd like to connect with me, I'd love to chat with you about any and all things recognition, or whatever you want to talk about is fine too. But the best way to do that is going to be on my LinkedIn. And if you just hit that search bar and type in Ashley Hurney, Hurney, you'll find me.
Awesome. And I know Chris and I would love to talk to folks as well. If you want to refresh your recognition strategy, we are connected to folks like MTM where we can actually help figure out, well, what's the right product or platform or whatever. But even on a deeper level, how do we figure out what the right approach is to reinforce your purpose, your values, and your strategy? We didn't even talk about recognition's connection to strategy today here, but you're trying to transform, you're trying to do something new. Like, if you're not thinking about how you're going to recognize and reinforce new learning and new behaviors in your business, like you're missing a really powerful tool. So you can always find us, purposeandperformancegroup.com, or all the other places where you can find us. So thanks, everyone. Hope you have a great day, and thanks so much for listening.